Incremental readings. So let's dig into how SuperMemo solves the problem of forgetting. We have just seen the problem of forgetting. Why do we forget? So how SuperMemo does that? Let us start with the memory puzzle. We observe that after learning something new, recall drops quickly without review. So what we need to do is review. Yeah, easy to say, but when do you that review? Because there's the challenge. Predicting the exact moment of the review, it's tricky. Some facts fade fast, others stick longer. So meaning that it's not as simple. There are more variables in the equation. The difficulty, hey, not that I cannot schedule everything the same thing. So, a paraphrase quote from Albert Einstein. Memory is deceptive because it's colored in today's events. I think it's not that straightforward, but I hope that by the end of the video, if you don't understand the quote, you will get it. So let's continue. The spacing effect, which is built, space repetition is built upon the spacing effect. So random forgetting, you cannot easily tell which items, flashcards, will slip from memory first. We cannot predict that. We know that some will be forgotten sooner than others. So what you could do is some average. We have the spacing principle. Review material just before you forget enhances retention more. Without entering into details, because how biology works in humans, this has a bigger effect than usual. So meaning that if I do review every week, I want to strengthen that memory that much. Or even though it will be the opposite, counterintuitively, it will be worse if I do it that often. So sometimes less is more, and if you predict more or less when you're about to forget it, and you do it just when it's, oh wow, I almost forget it, you get like an effect on steroids, to phrase it like that. It's a lot more powerful. And since it's more powerful, it's more long-lasting. And since it's more long-lasting, you do less repetitions overall. But there's a twist. Different items, flashcards, vary in difficulty and may require different review materials. That's why SuperMemo is built on not one single component of memory, but many. We will see that. So the best time to review is when forgetting is about to happen. That's the key. So let's enter to SuperMemo, the intelligent scheduling. For many, many years, SuperMemo had the best algorithm by far, because other apps, space repetition apps, were implementing the SM2, which is from SuperMemo. They just open sourced that algorithm. And the difference was major. Now, in 2025, with FSRS, it's not as big, but there's still a difference. And you cannot compare. You can compare FRS with SM2, but not against SM18, which is the last version. They optimize different things. It's like oranges and apples. So, SuperMemo has an intelligent scheduling, because it calculates optimum intervals for each piece of knowledge, adjusting automatically based on difficulty, meaning that each flashcard is calculated independently, but also taking some sort of information depending where it is. From the same concept group, we'll see what it is, or by the priority of that flashcard and stuff like that. So it's rather more complex. So the result is that the minimal time spent on reviewing, but maximum retention. You get the maximum effect with the minimum effort. That's the key. That's why when, for instance, I transition from Anki to SuperMemo for everything that is not language related, so history, psychology, so whatever field, but is not learning any language, what I experienced is that I was retaining more, so my retention increased, but more importantly, my time spent was like a quarter. That's not just because of in SuperMemo, the space repetition, was also because of incremental reading. We will get to that. Just to let you know that there's a major effect. So an algorithm that respects your brain timing is unstoppable. That's more or less what will be the average enthusiast, someone who is already an incremental reader user. is that the algorithm adjusts to your brain, because SuperMemo has its own data from experts, the starting point, because there's no data from the user. But as soon as you start using the app, you will collect data, and from this data, the algorithm will adapt to your performance, your unique performance. So exactly the intervals you will be getting will be different from my collection, because I have a different data. So the longer you use SuperMemo, the more it will adjust to you. So there are two criteria. First, intervals as long as possible, because you want to minimize the frequency of review. And because we know that when you're about to forget, the spacing effect becomes stronger. And then intervals short enough. It ensures you haven't forgotten the knowledge when you do the review. That, hey, I want to optimize for the long term, but if I should always overshoot, then I will keep forgetting that, hey, man, it's too late now. I have forgotten that. So you want the sweet spot. So stretch the gap until before memory fails. That's where the magic lies. So forgetting index. This is more like now technical. So in SuperMemo, it's designed from 3%, it will be the highest possible, allowed, to 20. The higher the percentage, the more forgetting you allow. But it's controlled. That I want to forget until 20%. Or no, I just want to forget 3%. If you put a low index, the learning is very slow. You will do a lot more repetitions. And if it's too high, low retention and slower learning. So if the index is too low, too high, like 20%, remember that the default is 10, you will have a lower retention, yes, and a slower learning gain. You will cover a lot of stuff quicker, but you will keep forgetting. It's like something half-baked we have seen in previous videos, like that. And a student who often jungle new content with occasionally revisiting all topics, let's say that will be 80-20%. So it's 80, you could say that this will be a forgetting index of 80%, which is disastrous. But hey, in SuperMemo, you can fine-tune that. Unlike other apps, you can have this collection setting, but every single flashcard can overrule that. So this particular flashcard has set this retention rate from 3 to 20. If I want, I could set individually every single flashcard I have in my collection. And the algorithm will adjust. That, hey, I have some flashcards that are crucial. Are for my job, I really have to memorize that. And I can put 3%. And the rest of the collection will be 10, as an example. So find your sweet spot where memory stays alive, but learning doesn't grind to halt. Because if you do very high retention rate, you'll keep most of what you do will be reviewing what you have seen already. A lot of repetitions, and you will be able to do something new. So the power of small and simple items, flashcards. You want to optimize at neural level. That's key. How you ask questions is not how perhaps you may be used. That it's a question that just checks your comprehension of the text. If you got the idea of the text. That's not what we want here. We want more atomic questions just to ask one single atomic memory. That, hey, I want to have that fact in memory, in my long-term memory. Therefore, as a human, what I use is this trick. That I will have a question very specific that targets this very specific idea, and that alone. And when I do the mental effort to recall, I'm strengthening that memory. Or, if I don't, I will become aware that, hey, I have already forgotten that. That's the key, neuronal level. Then complex items equals complex in scheduling. Unpredictable recall patterns make it harder to find the optimal intervals for everything at once. So the formula for success are optimum intervals plus flashcard simplicity equals high speed, high retention. This depends on SuperMemo. Item simplicity or flashcard, the formation of knowledge, depends on you. And as a consequence, the more atomic there are, the easier it will be for SuperMemo to optimize the intervals already. But this will be the bottleneck. So once you have covered all of this course, you know everything, every single detail in SuperMemo and incremental reading there is. The bottleneck will be the formulation of knowledge. Then, a quote from Leonardo da Vinci: "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." And it's like we could simplify that there's like an inverse relationship. So the simpler the item it is, the harder it is to have that item. So from the source I have, let's say a phrase or a sentence or a paragraph. To reformulate this in a way that it's very simple, it gets the job done. That's the hardest skill possible. It's the ultimate sophistication. Unlike the opposite, that you see a very fancy flashcard, a lot of detail, that's not a good flashcard. Because remember, we want to optimize at a neuronal level. So to become minimalist is the ultimate sophistication, is the hardest part. And it's not just speed, it's more than speed, because it's the quality of knowledge. SuperMemo turbochargers learning speed. But you decide which content truly matters. What you want to get, what you want to process, what you want to read, therefore understand, and then from what you have understood, what you want to remember. You make all of the decisions. So the quality of knowledge is the quality you want. There is a side effect, there is like a disadvantage. One of the very few disadvantages in incremental reading is that you can learn garbage. Because if the content is garbage, you can just memorize that garbage. But to simplify, is that it's not just quicker to get things done, and it's not just less effortful, that you need less time to commit to remember all of that. It's just the quality will be a lot higher. You win in every single domain. It's better. Incremental reading, which is a superset of spaced repetition, it's best in every single dimension you can think of. Quality, quantity, speed, it's a win-win. Only in the long term. So, it's just a responsibility to prioritize relevant, valuable knowledge. It's easy to say, it's hard to master. Priorities are key in SuperMemo. As long as you prioritize well, you will get a ton of value. If you don't prioritize, it's likely you will eventually give up SuperMemo. The snowball effect. You will understand why in many different videos in this course. Then, I will choose a set of items, ensures time is spent learning what's generally important. In other words, the time you preemptively invest in SuperMemo, incremental reading, then you save this time later on. You don't have to reread, relearn, and all of that. So yeah, I commit more time at the beginning, but then I don't commit almost anything, because the repetitions then is once a year, for years, so you just spend a matter of seconds per year. It's negligent. So quote from a proverb: "A fool may acquire knowledge, but a wise person knows which knowledge to acquire." Exactly. And I was a fool before, because I acquired a lot of knowledge that was garbage, was not applicable. So conclusions. SuperMemo, incremental reading, minimizes forgetting. Doesn't erase, doesn't prevent forgetting because we're human, but it's minimized. How? By scheduling reviews precisely before memory fades away. Then, combining intervals and simplicity. Retention soars and a study load shrinks. You spend less time and you remember more. Again, easy to say, but simplicity is hard to achieve at the beginning, because it's a skill. Formation of knowledge is a skill. Now with AI, it's easier at the beginning, but it will be still tough. Then, quality still matters, because most users must choose the right facts to learn. That I want to start a company. What do I need to learn? A lot of stuff from a startup, right? But not everything has the same importance. So here you go. As a final thought, is that SuperMemo liberates you from the cycle of constant forgetting. Yet the art of learning still demands you thoughtful selection of what to remember. You will just import stuff in SuperMemo. Hey, I want to learn from this source, from this video, this article, this book, pam, pam, pam. Oh, from this is that important, that priority, pam. Show me this again eventually. Depending on the priority, will be sooner or later. Hey, from this, there's something important. I make what's called an extract, pam, pam, pam. Hey, from this, there's something I want to remember. I make a resolution. Hey, that is no longer important, not to the same degree. Let me reset that priority. It's this cycle. So at the end of the day, SuperMemo solves the problem of forgetting. At the same time, that has the most quality possible of knowledge, that boosts the creativity, and so on. We will see most of the advantages in the dedicated section, because there are many. It's already on record, by the way. It's about 5 hours of edited footage. So imagine that. But that's just an introduction why you should use SuperMemo. Because it solves the problem of forgetting because of space repetition, but also because of the next level dimension that is incremental reading. And to date, in 2025, there's only SuperMemo that truly implements that to the same degree. See you incrementally.